Hello, Grebos, and welcome back to Downloadable Content. Today is a very special day because I have the man, the myth, the legend. Baron has joined us for another interview to talk about things like U11 and the road forward. Say hi, Baron.
Hello, mate. Good to chat with you again.
Hell yeah. So, what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about Nomad first because sometimes when I do these ones, I always get the why didn't you talk about Nomad immediately? So, we're going to talk about Nomad immediately. We're going to also talk about the PCVR U11 full release, and then we're going to talk about things like the road forward and some questions for Baron. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So, Baron, the first things first is Nomad. We never thought we would have Blade and Sorcery Nomad, let alone Blade and Sorcery Beta for Nomad on a standalone quest. And
Yeah.
then I didn't think that we would ever get anything like mods for it, which is just blowing my mind. So I want to take a step backwards and I guess let's talk about Nomad. There is a digital gun to the back of my head right now if I don't ask this question. What is going on with scripting?
Well, I don't really have any great news. The situation with scripting is open that it can be released after U11 full release. We're not going to release it exactly at the same time because we want to have a little bit of time where we make sure, hey, the update is working, that bug reports are accurate bug reports, and that they're in fact not mod reports. Which is pretty common. But I think we can release it pretty soon after full release. There is still a little risk that we release a scripted modding thing and it doesn't work, and then I'll have to go back for more dev. By the way, I was just answering this question on Reddit this morning. When I say scripted modding, what I'm really saying is advanced mods. It's basically a system that will allow modders to add their own code to mods. And that's basically what we're talking about. So it's notoriously difficult to get working on the quest, and that's what this big delay is. However, so even though that's not great news about scripted modding, it's just the same old news you've been hearing. You might have noticed an influx of very good mods lately for Nomad.
Yes, I have.
And yes, okay, so I was also chatting with someone on Reddit about this. So I mentioned this before, but maybe people didn't really notice. Okay, in the U11 SDK, we added a bunch of really great event handler tools for modders. And basically, what that means is it's basically just tools that will allow them to do script-like behavior without any scripting or coding knowledge. So
Wow.
this would be things like guns, real lightsabers, not like spell activation lightsabers, real lightsabers. This kind of stuff makes it super super easy for any modder to do this. And we're gonna release that with the official SDK.
Now that we kind of got some
Yeah.
scripting out of the way, we talked about mods. This way, I don't get a digital hole blown through the back of my head. I want to talk
Yeah.
about the U11 beta. So the last time I tried it, full disclosure, was I think right at the end of beta one or right as you just changed to beta two. I don't remember specifically, and now we're on beta three. So when it first dropped, it had the infamous yellow texture
Oh
weapons,
god.
the Lego
Yeah.
pieces when
Yeah.
paint got on them, and I think beta two kind of alleviated all that stuff. So now that you guys are in beta three, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a beta four in the PCVR, and then it went to full
Mm-hmm,
release.
hmm
Does that mean Nomad is going to run in the exact same cycle, or do you foresee more event planning, let's just say,
Yeah.
around Nomad's beta?
I would say you definitely could not say it will follow PC, like just for sure you just can't say that because they're so different.
Mm.
Um, However, in general, I mean, I think it's looking good. That damn yellow bug, we thought we got it, and it was all looking really, really good. And there's some fear that it may still pop up. I haven't actually seen any reports for the beta tree that it's been popping up, but if anyone sees it or if you hear of if any of your like followers mention it in your comments, can you let me know?
Sure.
Because we're worried that it's going to pop back up. It's definitely the worst bug we have, and I think if that bug doesn't pop up, or if it is solved, or we solve it later, I think that's the last piece of the puzzle for full release.
Oh,
in
okay.
my
So
opinion.
that's really okay.
Yeah,
And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that is related to the textures on weapons, right? So if I stab
yeah,
something and blood goes on it, that's the
yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's like one of those things, with blood and stuff being an experimental. It's really brain bending, and like honestly, the guys have been working on it for months. Like we just keep running in circles with it. It's I think it's something to do with shaders, but I just am not positive. I mean, this is the problem. We just don't know what's causing it.
Do you blame
And
U11's new lighting system for that?
no, because it was around even in U10. It's been around since Nomad launch, which is why it's so frustrating because Nomad launch was ages ago, and this is like a really annoying bug. And we would love to have like blood, not an experimental feature. Like blood on textures.
Do you feel like you guys are currently pushing the Quest right now
Oh God, since day one, man. Yeah,
since day
and
one?
the way it keeps happening is a big bunch of optimization changes will happen, and it'll like lower, it'll lower the demand on that ceiling. But then we'll push it back up in whatever way we can to get other stuff into the update. So it's a forever.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure Oculus QA would hate us.
Well, that calls attention to this one thing I kind of been circling, and I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I just want to get your take on it. So as the PC version evolves, right, this lighting system becomes intense, the AI pathing and AI brains become more and more intelligent. I think some people's fear is that Quest might get left at the wayside. So let's just say PCVR in U12 or in full releases, like boom, here I am, and here's what I can do. I think the fear sometimes is that Nomad is gonna, I don't want to say get forgotten about because it's there, but it is not going to be anywhere close to the PC version, and eventually will kind of fall off just because there might not be any point to continue it if it can no longer get. So basically, if you guys are saying it's currently pushing the boundaries of the Quest 2, how much further can you take it? Because even myself, while playing the game and I scale it to full screen and record at the same time, the Quest struggles and the game struggles at the same time. So I guess, what is the
Totally.
plan for Nomad's future if you're currently hitting those ceilings now?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the funny thing about it is we split the games because of that. Because we didn't want to hamstring PC. We didn't want to hobble the PC development to make it work with the Quest. And then we always put out a lot of disclaimers about like, hey guys, on Nomad, no promises, no promises. But if you know Warfrog, I mean, we've always been pretty consistent, and that's just not going to happen. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure Nomad follows PC. Just commented on Reddit about this morning again. I was just giving a little update, so I'll give you a little update now instead of that. We had a good go. We optimized the hell out of it, and we did everything we possibly could think of to like reduce the overhead for a Nomad version. At the moment, not looking good.
Well,
Still, yeah, it's still
okay, so
really far behind.
I guess
Yeah.
so. People probably want me to ask this one. Why? I guess this is
Yeah.
the leading question is why, and my backup to that one is I think about when U10 just launched, not even on Nomad, on PC. You guys were okay. I don't want to say okay, but I'll just put it out there. You guys were okay with invisible boundaries so that the dungeon can operate efficiently. So
Yeah.
with Citadel on Quest, is the problem that there's a wide berth for a draw distance and you're afraid that players can go everywhere, or is it literally the visual textures is kind of what crashes it?
Yeah, so it's not that the player can go anywhere because as you know, like if you go into the distance even on PC, if you go into the distance, those are just a lot of times they're not even meshed.
Yeah,
They're
those are
just
like
like
single-sided
lanes.
alphas. That made me sad the first time I fell through it. Just so you know, I was sad. I went
Yeah,
to the beach and fell through the
yeah,
world.
yeah. Well, see, the idea is it's supposed to be an immersive simulator, so you're supposed to feel like you're in the world, but it's not actually real.
So what you're saying is
But yeah,
don't use the wings mod and fly out of bounds?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So no, so that it's not really the distance; it's just the actual map itself. I mean, if you're playing on PC, as you know, like it's just a big ass map, and it's got a lot of objects. It's got a lot of it's just got a lot going on.
Yeah, but
And
the dungeon works though, and I know that's instant space and it's spawning as you
yeah,
progress.
see,
But
the dungeon is cheating. See, the dungeon is spawning and despawning as you go. and and even then, there's a couple of rooms in dungeons that are not in Nomad
Right.
that are on PC.
That's true.
Because again, same scenario. It was like we tried our best, but we just couldn't make it worse. They were just too big. There was just too much going on in the room. So the problem is with arenas, the arena maps are they load all together, and so the Citadel is just huge. It's just it's like it's probably like what 4 or 5 times bigger than other
Yeah,
maps.
I'd say that's the interesting part, right? I mean, you guys are the ones that are doing the work, right? So it's easy to say, just remake the thing, and you're like, it's not in the road. There's no way. They'll throw off everything else. But
Yeah.
possibly the solution, if it's really not behaving, is for lack of a better term, a bastardized version of Citadel,
Yep.
where it's still lore friendly. Like, don't
Yep.
just leave the bridge in, but like it's the exact same map, but you're like, okay, now I can almost, cut the polygon in half and delete this whole side of it. You could delete the tower, delete the cave system, and be like, it was hit by a meteor or something,
Yeah.
just to kind of get it out there.
I mean, totally. That would work. All right. Like in other words, make a small map. But then what you're really saying is make a small map.
That's what I'm
You know?
saying. Call it
Yeah, exactly.
Citadel Light,
Yeah.
Broken Citadel.
Yeah, it would work, but yeah, like that is literally saying make another arena map, So, that would be cool, but that would take time.
Crowdsource it.
And
Let's look at Sushin. Sushin, what are you doing?
yeah, I know, right? And then the problem with that too is something that I think people probably don't really think about is every arena map that's added is extra like bacon time for when doing lights and stuff and shadows and every new map is a new chance for bugs, a new chance for pathfind issues. In other words, everything you add to the game adds maintenance with every single build of the game that's done.
So the last thing you just mentioned was Citadel on Nomad, and we're not out of the woods yet, and there's still some hope, but we need a kind of a miracle
Yeah.
on that one. So as I look at the PC now, and the chains are broken, right? We're not bound. We have our own custom GPU. We have CPU. We can have people with $50,000 computers. So on some of the and just on U11, right? And not to, I don't want to. I hope I'm not starting off on a negative, but when I look at the lighting system, it's so fantastic. I go into the dungeons, I'm like, oh my god. I go into the canyon. How come some levels didn't get the same makeup? It was like I was like, what the hell? The ruins look like U6. What is going on? There's stretched textures and
Let me tell you.
delete it.
You know why the runes look like U6? Because the runes are U4. Okay, so let me tell you two things, two good things. The first good thing is that one of the most major lighting improvements we did in Dungeons actually has not been translated into any arena maps. So more to come. We are
Wow.
actually all the brickwork and stuff we did. Like Canyon got an overhaul, but it didn't get the beautiful lighting and brickwork changes that we did in Dungeons. And the reason is because again, like we're just so snowed. It's on the to-do list. One day that is going to happen, and all those arena maps are going to look really beautiful. That's brilliant. The runes, man, that's its own problem. So basically, it goes back to the earliest days of Blade and Sorcery, like U4, U5, when the game was first released, and arena and runes were like assets. They were like Unity assets. They
Yeah.
weren't made by us. And so it was like, when we had like PlayStation 2 graphics, it's like, whatever. It looks good in the context of that. But now, obviously, it's dated so bad. So we've had chats at Warprog, and we're definitely going to fix this. That map is disgusting. But what we were chatting about was, I would love to see that whole map just redone, just like, not just like improved, but like redone.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, like completely remade with our own assets, way more in like relevant to our lore, and just that it makes more sense.
With the full release, the last beta before it was U11 Beta 4. What was the thing that pulled it into the forefront and say, this is ready to be released? What were you holding out on? What did you learn from Beta 4 that's now present and in U11 that didn't say, hey, we need a Beta 5 right now?
It was to do with bugs, and I tell you something, this was the worst update for bugs. Oh, And I think it was just because there were so many new systems added. Like that's a lot of code, and also a lot of code coming from different people. Like in many updates before, it was pretty much copy. When you have one kind of main coder, that person kind of knows what they've done and what they haven't done. But when you've got like a ton of coders adding code, then it's kind of like, okay, what code are we looking at? And like where is this bug being introduced? It could be introduced in one of 20 places. And so anyway, oh man, we had the worst run up to the end. Every time it felt like we were done, we would do a build, we would test, and it'd be like, hold it, there's a massive, massive bug here. And it's like, oh my God, how do we not see that? And it's like, okay, stop everything. Let's try and fix this. We'd fix it. We'd do a build, test it. And it's like, oh my God, now the floor has disappeared or something like that. Now enemies are invisible. And the very last bug we had, enemies and weapons were just going invisible. And so it's like, okay, this is not good. It was the worst thing to track down. We felt like we had it. And then I just saw on Reddit, like a day ago, someone posted the invisible bug. And what I'm trying to figure out was, I actually got to check my messages because I'm not sure if they responded. But what I was trying to figure out was, was that Nomad or was it PC?
It's PC. I noticed it. I've been live streaming and I have been noticing more and more, but I haven't done it without mods. So I don't know if it's a content ID thing, because a lot of things is Medieval Mega Pack that's installed also. So I don't know if it's, as it's going through there, I don't know if it's trying to search for a content ID for something and it can't find it, but the weapon's still there already. Like it almost like memory cached it, right? It was just like, okay, so this is the whatever longsword, and then it was dropped on the ground, and then the AI goes to pick it up, and it's not technically there anymore, but it still hurts the player. So I haven't seen it yet unmodded, and that's why I didn't necessarily want to bring it up. So it just seems to be introduced with mods also, but I'm sure people will still want that fixed, even if mods are happening with it.
Just to confirm, though, that was full release.
Full release, yep.
Well, that's bad news.
So the other thing I want to talk about, Baron, is I played the full release of U11 and there was no traps. What's going on? Where's the traps?
Sorry, take it. Oh, the traps. Hey, man, I've advocated, I have argued, I have pitched. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm with you.
That makes me sad.
I know. I've not been able to convince Cosby.
Oh man, so he needs some convincing is what you're saying. So there's something I did want to bring up, and I still want to stay as positive as possible. So this part is called U11 constructive criticisms. I think U11 has been in beta, and PC players have had U11 for a while, and props to all the players that filled out the bug reports unmodded to help get it to where it is. And there are some things on here that I do agree with, and there's some things that I'm just like, it is what it is. It's all part of video games. So the first thing is from me, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So we're in you were
with 20.
First one is mine. So this is U11 full, and the only reason I'm being more of like a boxing glove mode on, I hope that's okay, I hope it's not hostile, is because it's the full release and it's not a mod. Even though, caveat, the game is in early access still. I'm still going to say that. The game is still in early access, so it's not like, I'm like, well, so there's that. So U11 full release, I think the thing that I want to share the most on is no doors yet. No doors yet in the dungeon. Yeah. So I was okay in the beta. I was like, it's the beta. They'll figure it out. And then there was no doors in the dungeon. Yeah. And I was like, oh, what happened? Yeah. Why no doors in dungeons?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. You were a victim of a joke that the community was spread. That is honestly what happened. I'm not even joking.
Okay.
It was never so it's a bit of a joke now. Like whenever I post it, it's like doors in capital letters because it's so small of a thing. It's just a door, right? We were going to add in door framework into U11, and for some reason, the community were just really into this idea of doors, and I don't know why.
Well, I blame you, Barrett, and your little animated GIF. You looked through the dang keyhole. That's on you, okay? So that made everyone's mind go.
it was all like kind of it was all like a circle because it became funny to me because I was seeing how like people were getting like amped up for such a small thing like a door framework. After the announcement of door framework, uh, I guess people start running away with it and adding, spreading information about what this was and making it a big feature when it really wasn't. It was just like a door framework. And then, of course, people run away with even more, like, oh, they're going to change how dungeons work, and now there's going to be doors in dungeons, and that literally never was a thing. And I did mention it in all the news I talk about doors. I put a little comment saying, hey guys, just a heads up that, this is not going to be a thing where there's going to be doors in dungeons. In fact, there's literally only a door in home and stuff. If you check back on the news, you'll see that little disclaimer I put. And the only reason I put that disclaimer was because I didn't want people to be disappointed, thinking that there was going to be some big door, thing in the update. When honestly, it was just a framework. Because people have been so into doors, okay, we have been chatting about it at Warfrog, and we're going to see if we can. This was not a plan. We're going to see if we can put doors in dungeons. However, we're thinking it might be kind of more like we'll put it in areas so that there's kind of like side, what would you call it, like side areas? When progression mode comes in and we have like loot, that maybe there could be rooms that like, okay, well, this is the way you travel to get to the next room. But there's like a little door over here maybe, and it opens up to another little area to explore, and maybe there's like loot. I don't know, like not that we have plans for a treasure chest, but like for example, maybe there could be a treasure chest if we added that, and that that kind of thing, because people are apparently really into doors.
Very into doors. Now, you just mentioned a treasure chest and the possibility of it somehow maybe. Now, I will boxing glove back at you where you guys do have a model of a treasure chest in the dungeon
Yeah,
that doesn't open up and has bad handles.
exactly. And I was joking with the dude who put that in. In fact, he put it in the home area, and he put it on like a little island.
Yikes. Yeah, he
I
did.
I said, man, I said, you are going to get a lot of posts like who are sad because the people are going to swim across here. They're going to be like, oh, treasure, and they're going to realize it's just an asset that you can't actually interact with. But yeah, like even though we don't have an interactable asset for a treasure chest, that's like one of the things that I think is feasible. Like we could, because now that we have a door, like a hinge framework, like we could
It
make
could
use
open,
of
for
it,
sure.
and then we could put loot in it. And so we don't have it yet, which is the only reason I'm saying like I'm not sure, but I could totally feasibly see that as that would be awesome to have like a interactable treasure chest.
So this next part is going to be a summation of about, I want to say at least 6 of them in one. People are mentioning things like parries and whatnot, but I'm going to break it down to U10 to U11. So, U10, I guess just to get it out there, I have seen some people on Reddit in each Discord start saying things that they felt that the AI was better in U10. At the very least, that they would maybe defend themselves a little bit better or attack better. Like in U11, they were just saying that how they just kind of jump backwards, I think, and their blocking system is there, but it's just not like effective. So with U11 and some of the things that I've noticed, and I try to write them off because I have tons of mod installed almost every day. So some things I noticed that I don't know if it's U11 or if it's not a U11, but sometimes enemies will just have both their hands behind their back and walk around, or just one, or their arms get stuck on their own collision and they don't swing.
Yeah.
So I guess that was what I saw as like a major criticism. Is some people are like, I'm switching back to U10. I'm like, bye. But anyway, can you talk a little bit about that? I know the animation system is a work in progress. And
Definitely. Well, for hands getting stuck behind their back and stuff. Obviously, that's that's not a part of the plan. So that sounds like a physics bug, and that's the ongoing battle for Blades of Sorcery, right? So obviously that is not supposed to happen. But in terms of the animation overhaul compared to the last animation, I mean, at the end of the day, it's subjective, isn't it? So it's like there may be some people who just flat out prefer the old system. But what we were trying to do was we were trying to make it so it felt less stilted. So in U10 and before, the enemy is playing an animation. Okay, and I mean they're still playing animations, but in the old way they were just flat out playing an animation. If you blocked it, they would get a little kind of stun, like ooh, and then that's like your little window to attack back. Then they would play another animation. And when it came to parry, the system we were using, predictive parry as we used to call it, was basically the enemy would hold out their blade in the kind of direction that it assumes the attack is coming in for. And that, that served us well. But it was, of course, one of the major sources of criticism about the combat system was that the enemy just felt too lifeless. So the new system we're using, it tries to blend animations together so that the AI will feel a little bit more organic, even though they're still using animations. So you might not like it, and that's just the end of it. You just might not like it. But I think it's a really good start. I'm actually really happy, even with where it is now. But we're just getting started. As I mentioned in the news, don't think this is the end. This is literally the first iteration of this system. We're going to keep working on it. I think the parry is not good enough. The defending himself is not good enough. But I'm pretty happy with the attacks. However, there's one thing I should note, and I think this is on us that we didn't explain this well enough. There's 3 difficulty modes. There's like easy, medium, and hard.
Yep.
The way those work is on the easier difficulty modes, the enemy has a limited pool of animations it can attack with. And on the hardest mode, the enemy has every single animation in its pool to attack with. So some of the trickier and crazier attacks are held for the 3-star difficulty. So if you really want to get a full experience of animation overhaul, you should be playing it on hard mode. And the enemy will also parry and riposte much more efficiently on 3-star difficulty, and they don't even on easy mode.
I agree. I think everyone should be playing on 3-star no matter what. No matter what, play on 3-star.
Just want to throw it out there, because if someone is playing on easy and they're saying, oh, the enemy's not even defending themselves, or like they have too few attacks, that is true, but it's because you're playing on easy mode. And so if you want the full experience, play on 3-star, but that's how it's working. And we got rid of the old system where enemies were faster on hard or slower on easy, because that just introduced all sorts of jank. so we got rid of that. So now the enemy is consistently the same animation speed, but they'll just have a lot more in their arsenal on hard versus easy. And one other thing I just want to quick say, defending definitely still needs more work there. The other thing was range finding.
Yes.
Seems to be an eternal battle, which is like we're trying our best basically, but it's tricky to code, and we're trying to make it so that the enemy will always kind of be within the right distance to hit the player, but not get in the player's face. Because that is equally as big a gripe everyone has, which is, the enemy is on top of me. And it's like, yeah, because we're trying to make it so he can hit you. And then it's like we go too far the other direction, the enemy is just swinging into air. It's like, oh god. So we're working on that. So at the moment we kind of have a system where if the enemy gets too close, it triggers kind of like a code that he'll back up a little bit.
Yeah. Playing through each beta cycle 1 through 4, and all at 3 stars when you could play at 3 stars in some of the betas, as I did notice that the animations were getting better. They were like, hey, I can do this now. I can do this now. Seeing the enemy get disarmed in their right hand and switch to the left one.
Yeah.
Granted, there's not like a full animation for it. It's almost like that video game teleport, but that's forgiven.
Yeah.
Is awesome. Just seeing that type of stuff. Them going to pick up a new weapon is awesome. All that stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
When it came to the U11 full release, it almost feel like it took all of those things that they're like, hey, I can do this now. It evolved, but it also evolved and pulled, for lack of a better term, it pulled some of the other jank that was from each iteration in them. And like we spoke about before, where like their arms are getting stuck behind each other, that type of stuff. Like seeing them in an idle state where no animation is playing except for them being idle, and one hand is like in their back pocket and the other one's up front. For me, I think it's hilarious because I know it's being worked on, and I know that it's the road ahead. So I'm just like, I don't care, whatever. It adds like that spice of life when I'm going through the dungeon, and one of them just can't. They just can't even. Their hands are in their pocket. But I did notice in the full release that there does seem to be a little bit more jank bugs for their animations than even beta 4 or beta 3?
I don't know. I mean, it's so hard because it's like with a physics simulation compared to other video games, it's like you can't always guarantee 100% replication. Like I haven't seen the hands-on pocket thing you're talking about. I saw a bug that I think we fixed, which was archers shooting behind their back.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
but,
Hilarious though.
but yeah, but like for melee stuff, I haven't seen it, but I 100% believe you that it exists. And then like the one that I tend to see the most is, and it's related to range finding, is enemies being too like hesitant.
Yeah.
And like it's just tough. It's just tough to try and get the balance perfect. Between enemies being close enough to hit you, but not so close to in your face, but not so far that they don't hit, that they don't move at all. It's
Right.
just an eternal battle.
Yeah.
That's really all I can say. Is just an eternal battle.
Well, that's fair, and I just really wanted to kind of get it out there, not for my own sake, but for a lot of the community that asks the same questions and may not. They have great intentions, but they may not understand the reason why it's happening, or maybe still not understand that it's still not to defend it, but it's still in early access, and this will happen.
Yeah,
it will
exactly.
happen.
Exactly. I know. I don't mean that to sound like it's not an excuse, but it's like that. But it is reality. Like each version of the beta, like we have someone working on it,
Yeah.
literally tweaking and changing code, and then release it, and we say like, "How's this?" And people are like, "Well, it's good or it's not good." It's like, okay, cool. So we go back and it'll literally never be final until the last release, and we say, okay, the game is done, archive this, we're not going to be doing any more updates. Then it's done. Then you can be sure it's not going to be tweaked. But there's scenarios that it could be perfect, and then someone changes code, and guess what? It's broken again. Frustrating,
Right.
But that
It just
that
it
the
just
reality.
is what it is.
Yeah,
That's the reality.
but the only thing, the only thing I can say really is I really am happy with how this first iteration of animation overhaul, but I 100% am in agreement. Like it's not done. There's so many bugs that can keep being introduced, and the enemy just can't defend itself. And there's still improvements to be done to range finding. They're like the three big ones for me. Oh, and there's another one too, which I was just chatting about the other day, which was it always feels like, to me, it always feels like the enemy is aiming kind of like a little too low, like they're aiming at your torso. And I think that's a little strange, and I think that might be like a bug somewhere. I feel like they should be aiming more for your chest, kind of head kind of area. So that's something we're looking into too.
Okay, so there are definitely a ton of these. No, I want to say a ton because that sounds like a negative, but there are some criticisms that I'm not going to get through. But I do want to kind of hit you with like maybe a lightning round criticism, and then we'll move on to the final part, which is just direct questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna delete some of these ones that don't make any sense, but I think a good one to ask or just to get out there is from Zeramus. And they talk about optimization. So it says optimization on even the highest quality preset makes the game super stuttery. Now, the caveat there is we don't know what system they're running with.
Yeah, that would be my first.
Yeah. So going back to you and you guys at home testing, do you find with good rigs? I would say I have a pretty good rig, and I'm not going to weigh in on this one just because 99% of the time that my Blade Sorcery is on, I have a mod and I'm recording at the same time. So I'll take myself out of the equation. But do you find what they're talking about to be true on the highest preset? Do you find any studying? Do you see frame drops at all?
Even on the greatest system of all time, there's a risk that you might have like a stutter, like something crazy happens. I was like, and that's it. Just because the nature of like if loads of physics go off at the same time, it's going to cause your CPU to spike.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's if something crazy's going on, right? If you're playing the normal game and you're like lagging, like as in like your whole game is crawling and like something's gone wrong, well, then I would start to get into the weeds with it. I would first say, well, like what's your specs, obviously.
i3
yeah.
Chromebook.
It really depends, right? Because like if you have like I have like kind of mid-tier specs and I'm clean sailing. Some people have like like an ice 1060 or something like that, and or the CPU is not so great. It's like, okay, that's okay, but you may need to start tweaking some things. Like you may need to turn your physics to low. You should maybe turn off MSAA. Maybe limit the amount of guys on screen. Okay, like that's just kind of common sense. There's that. But then you get the classic, like this happens often. Okay, you get people like, hey, I have a 3080. Okay, I've got like a rocking CPU, and my game is 11 frames per second. The game is trash. Okay, so for those guys, I'm always just like, kind of calm down for a second. There's something else going on, and I think it's frustrating for people because they're kind of they're thinking of like the traditional video game world, like, hey, I can run Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's like, well, there's so many more factors here. It's VR. It's
rendering
a
twice.
progress,
Yeah.
which means that the code is constantly fixing and breaking, fixing and breaking. So for those guys, I always say, okay, first of all, are you using mods? Okay, that's the big one, because mods will add their own issues into the game, and sometimes they'll say like, hey, I've removed the mods and I still have problems. And then I always say, okay, did you try clearing your save? Because that's the other big thing. So I always say to people, hey, go ahead, delete the folder, documents my games, Blade and Sorcery, and you should do this between every update. This is just good practice, in my opinion. This will wipe out your old bogged down save that had all that modded data, or it could even be something messed up from last update. I don't know, but wipe it out, have a nice clean save, and I swear to God, 9 out of 10 times, that's it, problem fixed.
Right.
Sometimes it gets a little bit more into the weeds, and if you have like high specs and bad performance, and there could be other things. Just had this the other day. Sometimes people set the refresh rate in the headset too high, like they set to 120. That's too high in my opinion. You should set it down to 90. I've never been able to get the game to run at 120. They might be using a Quest.
Yeah, anytime they switch from variable refresh rate, I just don't recommend doing that ever.
Yeah.
Just because if it needs to drop down to 60, it needs to drop down to 60. Like that is the technology fighting you. So it's almost like you need to leave variable on.
Dude, tell me what VR game is running at a solid, silky smooth 90 frames per second. Like VR tech still has a way to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, another classic one is people using the link cable, and they might find it's not so great. I recommend you try Airlink in that case.
Really?
Some people use Airlink and it doesn't work. I recommend try link cable. Like sometimes one or the other works. Another classic one is people set their super sampling too high.
Yeah.
Like they're biting my head off about performance, and then it's like we really get into it, and they're like, oh, I have my super sampling set to 200%.
Yikes.
Like, dude, like.
I have my render scale on 3. Is that a problem?
Yeah, it's like, have you tried not setting it to 200%? And they're like, well, I can run X video game like Grand Theft Auto at 200%.
Yikes.
Like,
that's not a.
And then that fixes it. Or like, there was another one just a few days ago. A dude had his resolution set to 500%.
Oh my god! So in the dungeon, I'm only going to talk about in the dungeon right now. Once the enemy is disarmed, their pathing looks for a way for them to escape, and they find a spawn point, and then they literally disappear. Is there any way to make that not happen, where they could just be, I'm disarmed, and then the AI can't leave, but they can move around?
You mean like they don't disappear?
Yeah, like you could be fighting them, and like you said, you want it to be immersive. And if the guy just like out of nowhere becomes one with the force, you're like, what the hell? Just what?
What would be amazing is if he could somehow open the door and escape, but obviously he can't. I think the idea there is that it's a way for kind of like passive, like passive players. And I mean, I think ultimately we want to be able to despawn the enemy in some capacity, whether he runs away or dies. So that's kind of what's happening there.
So this other one is by someone named Experiences, and I'm just going to read exactly how they wrote it, and then we'll mildly talk about it. They say enemies feel dead like walking corpses, no reaction, just the occasional moans. And I think that is on the roadmap, if I'm not mistaken, where you want them to have more idle animations and conversations and different things like when they battle, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of...
I'm not sure if the guy who posted that, is he talking about he wants like a kind of like a person dying on the ground, like an agony kind of thing, which we're not ever going to do.
No. I think what they're looking for here is like when you're in combat, so the enemy, the best way I can describe it is like you're fighting NPCs, right? Like that's really the best way I could describe in summation what they're talking about. Which I guess
Yeah.
I kind of get. They currently have recycled content where they Skyrim they say you never should have come here and some things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But like when you're stabbing them, I guess they're just like ooh oof, the Roblox oof.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think they're looking for more simulated livelihood while battling. Now, I don't know if they're looking for Monty Python style conversations, but
I don't think the enemy will ever converse. That's not a plan we have. Otherwise, yeah, I'm trying to think like what could you do like to lively it up. I wanted to add more death animations. That was something we were chatting with Cosby and the animators about. Just because more variety of death animations, why not? That'd be awesome. And we already we had an animator do more idle animations. So the way they're like sitting by the fire, or they're like investigating, or they're stretching. We have more of those animations coming, so that's cool. But in the heat of combat, I'm trying to think like what else. Someone once said, wouldn't it be cool if enemies kind of like put their hand on a wound?
yes, that'd be
That
cool.
would be cool.
That would be
But
cool.
prepare for Jank City. That's the only thing I'll say. If you have that kind of thing happening in the heat of combat, the physics jank risk is gonna rocket. But it would be cool. That would be awesome. But yeah, if you have any ideas, or if that user has any ideas, I mean, let us know. What you're thinking.
Okay, this next one is near and dear to my heart. I did not put it in there, but I'm going to read it as a joke. It says, "We don't have a drifter Easter egg. Come on, step your game up." Another one is NPCs can't use their fists, so I guess they're looking for like a fight or
Yeah,
flight situation. Is that a plan?
yeah. There's no plans for fist fighting, just
Okay,
because it would be
no
a
worries.
lot of work. But that would be cool. I would like to see it.
So I'm going to combine these two, and then we could probably move on after these two. So this one's talking about, I guess, for lack, they don't mention stealth, but I'm going to put it where they're talking about stealth in this one, which I know is a surprise feature. We have stealth on accident for the most part, which is funny. But they're
Yeah.
talking about how, I guess in the U11 full release, two things. They say NPCs are blind and deaf. That's just what one person said. And someone added more context and says enemies should detect the noise of dropped items, like bodies or weapons. I can slam a body into the floor and they'll just be completely oblivious. And I don't necessarily disagree. There are some times where I'll literally like throw like an anvil or literally kill their friend behind them, and they're like, "Not my problem. I'm on break." But if I
Yeah.
had a mod on, like Huge Honor has player lip sync where you can talk to the NPCs and they can hear you, they hear that 1000% of the time, and they also hear when the Outer Rim lightsaber turns on. So they do hear things. But I've definitely walked in front of an NPC and they didn't see me. And
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. And they've literally also turned the corner, looked right at me, and been like, "Nah, guess it's the wind," and missed. So I don't know. There might be something going on there. I don't know what it is, but
Sounds like.
I,
Well,
I I've definitely ran into that.
well, for the mods, obviously I can't say.
Yes,
That's
you're right.
But for noise, they do respond to bodies dropping and items dropping. They respond to touch, and then obviously they should respond if you're in front of them. They have an invisible little kind of alert bar that fills when they see you. So in other words, there's a possibility that you could step in front of an NPC like in their field of vision, and if you're quick enough and get out of their vision fast enough, they won't like spot you.
Okay.
But if you're like in their face, or like just standing there like and they're not reacting, maybe a bug. I don't know. They shouldn't
I
be doing it.
have had to walk directly to them and slap them in the face with like a nice little like insult slap, and then they're like, "Oh damn!" Oh, and then they fight me. So I'm like, I don't.
Gotta be
Once again though, I have tons of mod installed, including Sectory, so I don't want to weigh in on that one.
Yeah.
Do not want to
that
weigh
was-
in
yeah.
when I have Sectory installed.
But you know what? It's still even modless. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's possible it could, people could find a bug, or especially with the if they're not reacting to sound, like sound dropping.
So this next one, we're gonna, in closing, we do this every time, but in closing, I want to just get you with a couple of questions from the community. These are non-criticism questions. These are just straight up questions.
Okay, cool.
I've deleted the ones that were redundant. I've deleted the infamous multiplayer questions also. So
Thank you, thank you.
we'll just do a speed run as quick as possible. Most of these ones are yes or no questions. If they're not yes or no questions, we'll just add a couple, maybe a half thought to it. So, is Crystal Hunt going to have a mission system when you go into the map, or is it just dungeons?
It's just dungeons.
Okay. Next one
Or
is
dungeons. Let me just dungeons with purpose.
dungeons with purpose. Excellent. Next one is there a possibility for more features in the ocean, aka swimming, fishing, maybe boats, etc.?
Yes, if players are interested in that.
We are definitely interested in that. Oh, this was. Oh, I have my question. Yeah, I forgot. I have to ask my question. Oops. So, I talked to Lineker about this one, and he yelled at me. So I just want to talk to you about it. You have the apple, and we have other models in the game. And when I say models, I mean like tables and cups and stuff like that. So when I'm fighting an NPC, I could chop their arm off and they die. Mm-hmm. Is it possible in the future that you will add the ability to, let's say, chop the apple in half? When I swing a really heavy, sharp sword, can I chop wood like you have the lumberjack's axe? Can I actually split wood? And I'm not looking for custom deformation. Like let's just say it can only be split in X, Y, and Z. Can that come to the game? And can we, I guess, for lack of a better term, mesh deform props?
Short answer is no, because you would have to go out your way to make that possible. There's no like easy like just like toggle. Like you would have to think about, okay, the wood needs to be split, so then it needs to have like two kind of like prop meshes, and there has to be some kind of code that triggers when it's hit with the axe. So it would just be a huge amount of work. So I would probably say no. We had kind of like a conversation like this at Warfrog about doors. Can doors be smashed open? And again, it was like, man, that would be freaking cool. But boy, would it be a lot of work.
Yeah, this next one is a cool feature. So you know how lightning, you can grab them and electrify them? It says a feature to burn enemies by holding the fire spell either close to them or using the alternate grip to burn them. Can that be done?
That is a great idea.
Excellent. This next one is from Vamos. I think it's more of a personal question, but they want to know how big your beard is.
In real life?
Uh-huh.
Well, once upon a time it was huge. I think at its peak, I used to have a beard that was down just a little past my neck.
Wow.
Yeah, but at the moment it's fairly trim.
Fairly trimmed. Excellent. Someone asked, will we ever get more maps in the future? And will there also get a story mode at some point? I think the story mode is Crystal Hunt, so I'm going to cross that out. I guess they're looking for more arena maps. And to add on to that one, can the arena maps, or will the arena maps also play a factor in the dungeon? Can I go through a tile set and be in Citadel and vice versa?
Gotcha. So, so obviously, just to quickly nip this in the bud, obviously there's no story coming, as we all know. There's Crystal Hunt mode, but there's no storyline. Okay, just getting that out there. But for the arena maps, is there going to be new arena maps? I don't know about new arena maps, but one thing we really want to do is there's several dungeon rooms that would make excellent arena maps, like the chapel, the outpost, the watchtower, the library. And people have said like, hey, why not just have these as sandbox maps that you can just get into? And agreed, it'd be awesome. Chatted with the environments guy, he's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. We could totally do that. And I really hope we're going to do it. Why not do it now? It goes back to the previous conversation we had, which is every arena map we add has a goddamn ton of maintenance. So that would be kind of nice to add, like kind of more towards the end when the game is nearly done. But as for completely like 100% unique arena maps, I don't believe there's any plans for it. Just because
that's fair.
We're so busy with other stuff.
This next one is about spells. Will there be an option for combining two different spells, like fire and lightning, fire and gravity, so on and so forth?
That is on the to-do list, but I don't know exactly. I don't know the details, but that is something we want, yeah.
Okay. This next one is, this is a pretty direct one. What is the most likely thing to come next to Blade Sorcery?
After U11, we're 100% going to be focused on U12, which is progression mode. So
progression mode.
Like working on skills, working on the purpose. We're working on lore right now.
Ooh, lore. Interesting.
Yeah.
This one kind of goes back, but I just want to double down on this one. This is from a different user. And I guess we'll just double down on this one. Will there ever be improved fire physics? Lighting torches on fire, burnable materials, lighting torches with imbued fire, which I can get behind. There's been times where I've lit a torch, and I use that torch to light another torch, and it doesn't work. So
You
Any,
won't believe. Literally, we're chatting about it like this week at Warfrog. We agree. We agree. It's not on the plans, but we agree. It would be cool if you could put the torch in a fireplace, the lights. It'd be cool if one torch could light another torch. Another cool idea would be, wouldn't it be cool if you could use the fire spell to kind of like click your fingers or something and like light candles or like torches,
oh,
kind of like The Witcher.
yeah.
That would be cool. And then on a bigger, broader thing, which is definitely not planned, but we also agree this would be awesome. If we ever introduce like any kind of alchemy type system, not like mixing potions or anything like that, but more like maybe smash a vial of like oil, and then you could like light oil on fire, or like smash a bottle of water, and then like use electricity to like
Yes,
electrify it.
that'd be sick.
That would be amazing, but that sounds like a pretty big feature. So
Yep.
we have not committed to that, but it would be cool. So let's just see. Let's see how smooth U12 goes.
Okay. What's up with the honor system? What are the plans for it?
Don't know. Literally don't know. So, so it was just a framework that we added ages ago because we thought, okay, someday we're going to utilize this. How we're going to utilize it, don't know. So one idea Cosby had, and then this is just an idea, okay? We're not committed to this. One idea was he was saying it'd be really, really cool if it was a bit like Fable or something like that, where it's like if you had 100% honor, your character looks kind of like a certain way, or if you're 100% evil, that your character looks a certain way for that. Kind of like, Sith versus Jedi. Like maybe if you're 100% dishonorable, your character maybe has like kind of like dark eyes or dark kind of like veins or, looks sinister basically. But the same character with 100% honor could look like maybe kind of like slightly, what would be the word? Like not glowing, but like, you know what I mean? Like heroic or noble. But we haven't committed to it, so I don't know what his plan is. I'm not sure. And
Okay.
I don't even know how it's exactly going to tie into progression mode.
Last time you hinted at a boss in Crystal Hunt. So, can you say there will be any new types of enemies, monsters, creatures, so on and so forth, like a Spartan?
I would say let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. Cool, cool, cool. That is exciting. Well, I think we have come to the end. I hope, Baron, I hope you had a good time. I know this was this was question based, and I kind of made you shadow box for a bit, but
Yeah, one thing is, like, this is a pretty long chat. We've like an hour and a half or something. But yeah, like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think overall the update has been pretty well received, and criticisms notwithstanding, I think people are having fun. They're enjoying the update, and the biggest thing I could see criticism for is bugs, which is never ending. And then the AI, like literally, I was the first person to say it. That, hey man, it needs improvement. We need to keep working on it, and we will. But other than that, I mean, people seem to be having fun, so. That's
oh,
a good part.
absolutely. And that what makes me the most happy is seeing new people come to Blade Sorcery and veterans continue. Every day when I play it, I always have a good time. Even when if I'm recording something and maybe I'm pseudo not in the mood, I still have a great time doing it. I basically do something every day and I have a blast with it. And to everyone else, I said it before, but I want to make sure I highlight it. It's not an excuse, but it's still an early access game, and this isn't an early access game that's put up for money. It's obviously not that. It's early access, and you're playing it as, yes, to have fun, but you're also playing it as a helper. And I believe that's in the game description. So just keep that in mind.
The reason that's so pertinent to know, it's like you say, it's not that it's an excuse for things that are wrong, but it's something you really need to know, because every time new stuff is added, stuff breaks. And you just have to kind of have that mindset where it's like, God, like, it was working last update, why is it broken now? Or why is this regressed? Like, why has the AI done this or that? Or why has the physics regressed this or that? And it's like, because every time something new is added, something else has a risk of breaking. So until the game is literally released and it's like Warfrog are like, we're no longer working on the game, I would say everything is up for grabs in terms of breakage.
So what you're saying is stay tuned for Blade and Sorcery 2, the final sorcering.
Yeah, dude, it's so demoralizing to hear that, I'm sure, but I think it's important people know it, because that is the reality. It's that literally we were like making builds and it's like, oh great, now the ground is invisible.
Right.
That's cool,
Right.
Like, so it's just, it's kind of like, you have to have a kind of certain mentality and tolerance for that kind of thing. And some people don't have it, and that is totally your prerogative. But you should just at least know it. that it exists in this game anyway, you know.
Absolutely. Well, Baron, I want to thank you for your time. I'll get this edited and out sometime this weekend. And thank you for the community for asking such great questions. It's always great to be able to hear where the devs are coming from. But other than that, thank you everyone for watching. When I post this, Baron might be able to answer some additional questions on YouTube. I'll ping him when the time comes. But other than that, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next video.